Hello, Chain Gang, and welcome back to the 4 Chains Travel and our 4 Chains in Italy playlist. This week, we are very excited to be taking you to an absolutely awesome place that we found, and that is Otranto, Italy. It definitely checked so many boxes for me. I would go back there in a heartbeat, and I think that you're going to love it as well.
No offense to Monopoly, which is the Puglia town that markets itself as checking every box, but I think that Otranto checks most of those boxes in a much more satisfying way. Its vistas are very close to the vistas in Monopoly. It also has plenty of free parking. You can see a Maserati and a Bentley took advantage of it this day. It has the most historically significant castle in all of Puglia, and we give you a full tour. This church is one of the most historically significant churches. Only St. Nicola in Bari compares. Inside, you will see the answer to the hardest Italian trivia question to answer, and it's why it's in the Guinness Book of World Records. It has a beautiful piazza, probably our second favorite to just the piazza that we showed you in Trani. In addition, it also has beautiful beaches that are very accessible, and somehow it is still a city where you can get lost in the incredibly beautiful streets and not be surrounded by 10,000 tourists like you would be in a place like Alberobello. So, with no further ado, we bring you the magnificence of Otranto.
I saw a lot of complaints online about no free parking in Otranto, but that's not true. They do have a lot at the beginning of the city. And the great part about parking in that is you'll see the sign that says Parcheggio. It's actually the third exit off of the roundabout. But what's cool is you park your car and look at this as far as city gates go. You just walk in here. This is beautiful. These trees, it's all everywhere I see them, I see that they're manicured, but there's absolutely no way all of these trees are being manicured. They just grow that way. And it leads you into just an absolutely gorgeous cemetery. You may notice that there are 2 signs for parking, and I directed you to go to the one on the third exit. Well, that's because if you were going to spend the entire day in the city, that one is just free parking, period. This second one is also free parking, so it might show that as free parking on your Google Maps, but if you look closely at the sign, it is free parking only for 1 hour. So go ahead and park at that one off the third exit on the roundabout. Today, they're probably going to be a little cooler about it because, as you can see, there's a Maserati and there is a Bentley Rolls-Royce, and in the back of the Maserati is the bride. There is a wedding today, so that's awesome.
Like most Italian cities, they do have these maps at the city entrance, and the city is very walkable.
We are filming a lot of castles, not just because we love Game of Thrones, but a lot of castles while we're in Italy. If you subscribe to our channel, you know that already. But this is the one that I looked forward to the most just because of the historical significance of it. So this has changed hands numerous times. It was originally in the hands of the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then the Byzantine Empire, and then the Romans again. And it was for thousands of years just critically important. Essentially, if you wanted to acquire a lot of territory, Ottomans, Byzantines, Romans, Greeks, you had to have this because of where it is located in terms of trade routes. It is the absolute economic linchpin of this. And the reason why it is not today is just simply because Columbus discovered the United States of America, or the Americas, I guess I should say. And you will notice that there are a lot of castles that were absolutely critical 4 countries and 4 cities until that point of Columbus, which is really why a lot of people might look at Columbus and say, geez, he was a bad guy. Somebody would have discovered the United States, being the most important of his discoveries at some point. But the fact that he discovered it when he did, it made Spain a superpower, but it absolutely changed the economic landscape. Essentially, there have been 3 mind-blowing linchpin things in all of history. The first one was Augustus Caesar winning the Battle of Actium and becoming the richest person in the entire world, the richest person they'll ever be, because this one person controlled almost 1/3 of the world's wealth, and he used that to create the Roman Empire. The second one I would say would be when Columbus discovered America, as we just talked about. And then the third one would be when the combined actions of Thomas Jefferson getting the Louisiana Purchase and James Polk expanding the Mexico-Canadian and then the United States border to California, which made the United States such a unique economic superpower, and obviously winds up playing the decisive role in World War I and World War II. And they were the most influential country that there's maybe ever been other than Rome, until possibly now when things are changing. But we'll see how history plays out there. But we're going to go inside. I'm so excited I can't even begin to tell you. Angie loves her moats, and obviously this being such a critical economic infrastructure, building a giant moat and giant walls and incredibly thick walls. These walls were all built to withstand cannon fire so that approaching Ottomans could not knock it down with cannon fire. Of course, the Ottomans had enough to really make a difference, which is why subsequent to the Ottoman invasion, so many things have been added to this structure. All right, we're going to go in here. I don't think we're the only people today that had that idea. The moat. Angie must be excited. All right, here's one of the cannons. Obviously, it goes without saying that it was normally posted at one of the outposts because almost always the invasions were by sea. There is a beach. I'll try to insert some footage here where they say that the Ottomans landed a large portion of their force to take them by surprise, and there was a shadow force, a distracting force, sort of like the United States and Britain did in World War II. But as you can see, they still have the cannons here. Awesome. And this would have been the hole that the cannon would go in. One of the most popular historical fiction books in Europe is The Castle of Otranto. So you might be asking yourself, hey, are you going to go to that castle? No, there's no actual Castle of Otranto. The illustrations in the book were taken at this castle. That isn't the only book that has been inspired by this castle. Also Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Not Bram Stoker's Dracula. That is actually a castle in Romania. But Dracula's guest did use this castle as inspiration, and when we show it to you, you're going to see why. See here are the preserved slabs of a balcony that used to exist before fortifications were changed to make it better for defense. There's a shield on each side indicating the importance of defense, and each one of these is a male, or in that case a female, and in this case female important person in the city of Otranto. And of course they're surrounded, you can see, by a laurel wreath. If you get invited, or are lucky to get invited to an historical lecture, this would be the room that you do it. It's downstairs, and what's great about this is they can have lectures all year long, because this is 2 floors down, and it is very cool and very refreshing, as you would say about Junior Mints if you're watching Seinfeld.
It's very refreshing!
Right there, if Angie can close up, that is what we call in these days a Tyrion Lannister secret door. If you are trying to invade the castle and you are a former person who lived here and you know the entrance. When we talk about how important defense is, you know they felt it. Look at the thickness. This is how you can appreciate the thickness of the walls. I wouldn't say that they're cannon proof, but they are certainly cannon resistant, because the cannon can do damage and still not break down the walls and allow for entry. If you look over here, this was built later because they realized the weakness was an approach from that area. So that is called the crazy building by Italians, because if you look at the top of it, they built the castle and then they built an outer wall around it, and it's a very unusual shape, but what it was designed for is when cannon fire would damage that outer wall might come down, but then you have the main structure there. You can also see over here let me get through here. It's a Saturday, so we're gonna be seeing a lot of tourists today, but Angie's favorite, you can see the moat. You see where the land was over there that we now have cars and restaurants and stuff. But you can see in between it was a very large moat. If you saw earlier those holes, those windows where the cannon could fit through, if anybody dared to try to traverse the moat to get in, then the cannon could pick them off from there. If you look over at this end up top, that is where the lookouts would be, so you could try to see the enemy coming. That's one of the oldest parts of the structures, and that must have been where they first saw the absolutely devastating Ottoman naval barrage coming at them. The ships are a little bit more modern now, as you can see there in the port. A bunch of millionaires have parked their boats there, but you can see the vast expanse of the sea, and it just, if you can imagine being the Greeks or the Romans or the Byzantine, when I say Byzantium, that's what you would think of as Turkey today. When you see, because it's such an important economic bastion, they would put all of their eggs in one basket to conquering this. So the overwhelming majority of their fleet would be used in an effort to conquer this, because it was just so important economically until, like I say, Columbus discovered the Americas, and then the ability to trade goods, the amount of countries available to trade goods with expanded so rapidly that it became less important, and now, you know, a place where people can make YouTube videos. These metal bars are not part of the original construction, but this is an area that you can also do a cannon, and people lining up to figure out how to cross this moat, and what's up, you ain't going nowhere. Now, of course, it's a lovely courtyard. Here's another perspective of how thick those walls are, and you can see where they were added on to what, once the other structures got on, became less valuable defensive positions. These holes, which now have windows that have been added to it subsequent to that. But those were all those holes were defensive areas to protect the Castle Aragonese. This would be the main entrance for historians to be able to be allowed up here to the prehistory part of it. If you're wondering what prehistory was, that term really only came into vogue in 400 AD at the Council of Nicaea, when they decided to make Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. And that's another thing, another obviously time moving. At that point, when they decided that, for every Christian, there was about 1,000 Zoroastrians. There was about 10,000 Jews, and there was about 15,000 polytheists prior to Constantine making this decision. And one of the things that became problematic is that in the Old Testament, in the Bible, if you back the dates from creation through Noah and all of the figures in the Bible, you would come to the conclusion mathematically that the earth was 6,000 years old, And that is, obviously we know now with carbon dating and the discovery of dinosaur bones, that's not true. But Italy and the Roman Empire knew that prior when they discovered cities like Matera. If you subscribe to our channel, hopefully you've already seen our Matera video, which were quite a bit older than 6,000 years ago. The belief is that the way that they came up with 6,000 years was because the only type of writing and evidence of any society was 5,000 years ago when Menes ruled Egypt. And I guess they figured, oh, let's tack another 1,000 years onto that and we should be good. And turned out they weren't good. So, swing and a miss there, Constantine, but that's okay. It's prehistory. That's a new way of reforming it to add some legitimacy to it. Echoes in this room, but coincidentally the next room, if you look at these artifacts, they have actually been carbon dated to 14,000 years ago and only as recently as 8,000 years ago. So, my bad on that one, but yeah, much older, at least than 6,000. Other things at the castle is that the rooms that don't necessarily have things you would want to see often have art exhibits, and there's one going on while we're here now. It is by Gino di Rinaldi, and so there's several works of his. There is another room where there is a historical artifact, but I believe there are going to be more paintings of his in here. Actually, although these are painted on, they are, what would you consider this material?
Like a muslin?
Yeah, we've got like a material here and it's been serrated at points and colored at points. It's a really interesting thing, particularly that end right there, which looks like Otranto's castle.
There are a lot of doorways in this region of Italy that have strung beads vertically hung to the entrance,
yeah,
and
that's
this looks
interesting.
like a doorway in a restaurant in this region with the beads in front.
I have a question for you guys, my subscribers. Have you ever sat down on a bench that was 8,000 years old? I don't know whether that's on your bucket list, but if it is, for only €3, you can get in here and have a little seat. There's a couple of them, one over there by the AC if you're really hot. Yes, dogs of the log. Castles are very, very cool. To get to the crazy building, you just leave the castle, not building, but defensive fortification. Just leave the castle and you cross this bridge and it will take you over. You and a billion tourists, actually, because you wonder why this is more crowded. Not that it's more historically significant, because it's not as old, but just this part is free, actually. This thing is quite a feat of defensive architecture. Dogs of the log. This port wasn't here, of course, but not like this, at least. Now we got a lot of kids playing on the beach, having fun. For lunch, if you want a restaurant with a view, they have plenty here. That is the Santa Mare restaurant. And there's the view. And this is the Trattoria Pizzeria. There's another half dozen of these. It's kind of reminiscent of one of our favorite cities, Gallipoli, if you've seen that video. And to put some perspective on it, the beach is over there. With the same sea views. And then you come around here, more castle action, a statue celebrating the uniting of Italy. And then, of course, more awesome castle action. I just love it here. I hope this translates. If you're looking at the Mother Italy statue, where you've just come from, where you're facing this castle, and you want to go to the beach, there's 3 more beaches in addition to the ones that I showed you. Over here, you can see that one, and then that one. The most popular appears to be that one down there, which has a bunch of beach umbrellas. That might be the reason why. But unlike some Italian towns, these beaches are free, and then to the right of the umbrellas, there's even more. So I love Gallipoli, but I would really only say there are a few, 2 or 3 beaches that I would say are comparable to what you see here that you can get to for free. And so I'd say that Otranto wins on the beachfront. Plus, the water in Otranto is much more shallow. It actually reminds me of Dream Sands, the resort in Cancun, Mexico. You can see how far those people are out from the beach, and the water is still not even reaching the waists of the people who are tall. This is the first of those beaches, not as crowded probably because of the, there's not quite the amount of sun umbrellas, beach umbrellas for people to have shade on, and today is very sunny, which is why I'm wearing my GG Poker hat. Sign up now for a bonus and qualify for the main event, or the main event Europe, or the main event in Paradise at Atlantis in the Bahamas. We are now at the main promenade. Even though it's siesta, this is the main tourist hub. So there are restaurants that are open along the promenade here. Just a wonderful breeze. And, you know, every restaurant, probably 2 restaurants for every shop. But nice cool breeze. Old dudes on motorcycles. And imported palm trees. This beach is not popular. I think it's probably because there's so many seashells and racks. Racks, that doesn't make sense. Just seashells and rocks. You know, yet again, another restaurant, but you see the difference in the density of the crowds over there. So we're gonna head over there and see what's up. Okay, now we're at the main beach with all the umbrellas. This is interesting. Not everybody is even sunbathing on the sand. They have people that are sunbathing on the steps. I think I'd be going for one of those umbrellas if it was me. Now that we're closer, I see that the umbrellas is not a first come, first serve. They are for rent. You have to rent the umbrellas. We'll check on the price. But some people are just throwing down a towel, and I guess that's okay too. The beach with the umbrellas is called Spiaggia dei Gradoni. Gradino. And the one over there that's the Spiaggia dell'Otranto. This shot is interesting because it shows how far out these people can walk and still be at waist deep water. Look at that. That's one of the things that really makes this popular, I think. And this is Spiaggia dei Otranto. Tip about Italy: the gentleman with the backpack and the bracelets, do not engage. These people now are having a lengthy conversation with him. They will try to be friendly. They will always say, "Di dove sei?" Where are you from? And then no matter where you're from, they have an answer. "Oh, I'm from Chicago." "Oh, Michael Jordan, he's the best." whatever, they have an answer no matter where you're from, and then they guilt trip you into buying one of these crappy bracelets that you're not even going to take on the plane with you. In downtown Bari, they're the worst. We were in a restaurant once, and there was 2 of them in the restaurant selling at the exact same time. But as you can see, these people made the mistake of having a discussion with him, and now she doesn't realize it yet, but she has bought a bracelet because she's putting it on, she's trying it, and once it's on the wrist, he's going to tell her that's €5. And then she's going to say she doesn't want it. He's going to say, well, you put it on your wrist. I can't take it back. Come on, guys. Do not fall for what this lady is falling for right now. Our plan today was to go into this vaunted historical church and look at the collection of relics, because this church has the largest collection of relics of saints of any other church in the entire world. Not in Rome, not in Florence, not in Venice, here in Otranto. And we're going to tell you that story, but we have an even better treat. I love it when we're in Italy and there is a wedding, because nobody does weddings like the Italians. Woo! Yay! Oh man, I love it. I mean, I'm a tough guy. I don't care about romantic stuff like this. So why would they choose to get married at this church? If you are a subscriber to our channel, you've seen a lot of churches that are certainly more ornate than this. Well, it's certainly the story of why there are more relics of martyrs and saints, actually people who are both martyrs and saints, in this church than any other place in the world. When the Turks the Ottoman Empire invaded in 1480, 830 Christians hid out in this church, barricaded themselves, hoping that it would lead to their safety. But as we know now, history overtook, and the Ottomans were able to conquer this area, and they were able to break into the church, and they gave the churchgoers a ultimatum that you can convert to Islam or you can be executed. And of the 830 Christians in there, 813 of them chose death. So they were all canonized as saints, and their skeletons are kept in this church as holy relics and will be forever. And this is that cathedral that they got married in. Oh man. Absolutely beautiful. Even the floor is gorgeous. Look at the mosaic on the floor here. We are headed down into the crypt. This is one of the more neat octagonal baptismal structures. The offeretta room where you give offerings to the church is particularly stunning. And these are the skeletons of the 813 martyrs who are all now currently sainted. It's a little macabre. But if you believe in these things, every skeleton in here represents a person that took the express route to heaven. They say that everything in Italy is more beautiful than any other place in the world. Not just churches, not just people, not just food, but even hearses. This is not a very long SUV. It's the most beautiful hearse I've ever seen. Right next to church is the Diocesano di Otranto Museo, which is it's a museum. It's got a lot of sculptures of Dionysus and Poseidon and all that kind of stuff. Piece of advice I can give about visiting Italy, and my subscribers are probably sick of hearing it, but I can't go without saying it, is this is the Castle Aragonese. If you are near a tourist attraction and you see a restaurant, generally you should not go to that restaurant. This is the Il Castello Pizzeria Ristorante, but this was recommended to us and we were very excited about it until we got to here. But we're gonna go ahead and try it anyways because we have not rolled the dice on this particular, broken this particular rule in many years. So we're gonna do it and we will let you know. We decided you guys were sick of seeing pasta videos. Maybe you're not. Let us know in the comments. So we both got, Angie got prosciutto, she doesn't like it when I say funghi, but that is how you say mushroom in Italian. And I got salsiccia. And we were really hot, so we got water and we've been pounding it. Okay, my review of Il Castello. I'm sorry to say the rule still holds. If you are at any landmark, any tourist landmark, and you turn around and see a restaurant, don't go to that restaurant. The food was not terrible, but it was for the price, it should have been really, really good, and it just wasn't. The pizza was just okay. It was a little bit skimpy. I did enjoy the sauce. Angie ordered Coca-Cola Zero, and that's what it was called in the menu, and it was Pepsi Zero, but she still enjoyed it. But just a heads up if you're loyal to Coke. One last thing I would say is that I was a former safe food service manager trainer, and there was a very lovely, very nice woman who, she wasn't our waiter, but she did ask twice, va bene, is everything okay? And, I told her it was. She cleaned the glass of Parmesan cheese, the little glass container of Parmesan cheese, by blowing the excess Parmesan cheese off of it. That is absolutely unacceptable, and she was so sweet. But let's put it this way, I did not order any parm on my pizza. So we're gonna head off here now that we've been refueled, and get some more attractions for you guys to see in Otranto. And like any Italian town, unless it's too crowded with tourists, one of the greatest pleasures is just walking through the streets. I think if I lived in Italy, I'd have to have a lemon tree in my yard. I think that would just be a must. And like every town in Italy, Otranto has a public park. This one's a little unique because of its proximity to the sea, but it does have the usual trees, covers for shade, stuff for kids to play on, and most importantly, the benches for people to sit on and relax. You know what? Everybody seemed to be having such a good time just sitting down and feeling the breeze that Angie and I decided to do just that. Am I right, honey?
Yep.
Chain Gang, thank you so much for sharing this journey with us. Next week's video will be comparing taking public transportation versus renting a car when you're in Italy, and then we are moving on to an amazing series of videos in the city of Bari. We'll see you next Saturday on the 4 Chains Travel.